Bad news, Gennady Golovkin opens up as a 25-1 favorite against this guy. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang, notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Shout out to the Super Chats, channel donations, the Venmo donations, the Cash App, the Venmo, and the Patreon family. We working. Now, some unfortunate news. It looks like Golovkin may fight this guy you see on the screen. His name is Szremeta. Right? He boasts a record of 21-0, undefeated, no draws. But if you look right there, in 21 bouts, he has a total of 5 knockouts facing Golovkin if he is to face him. And he's 30 years old. He's shorter than Golovkin. I'm sure his, with his height being shorter and just seeing pictures, it looks like his arms reach is going to be shorter than Golovkin. And again, 21 fights, 5 knockouts. He has a KO percentage of 23, a whopping, like Jordan, 2-3. In 21 bouts, 144 rounds, he has a 23.81 knockout percentage. Now, this is the guy that a lot of people are rumoring to fight Gennady Golovkin. Looks like they probably agreed to terms. This is a mandatory, and a lot of people suspect that this is the direction they'll go. And it wouldn't be surprised if you looked at Golovkin's whole career. It's been guys like this. And as soon as he stepped up and fought the better names, like Jacobs, like Canelo twice, like Derevyanchenko, guys that we thought at least had maybe not a chance to beat him. I thought those guys had a chance to beat him, but I think people slept on Jacobs and Derevyanchenko. But the bottom line is the best names he's fought, he couldn't show true separation. 2 Canelo fights, Jacobs fight, and Derevyanchenko. I thought Derevyanchenko definitely beat him. He looked very poor in that fight. And it's gotten very quiet for Triple G. And if he fights this guy, this is more bad news for Triple G's career and also Dazn, because as I mentioned, you guys seen in the title, people are speculating that this is Triple G's next opponent. It hasn't been confirmed by Eddie Hearn, his new promoter, or Dazn, but it looks like this is the direction that they're going to go. And it seems likely, to be perfectly honest. Again, if you look at Golovkin's history of opponents, Adama, moving guys up like Rosado, Ishida, fighting unknown guys at the time like Willie Monroe Jr., Dominic Wade was his mandatory, and Steve Rolls, whoever this character is, those types of things. Golovkin has a pattern of this, so I wouldn't be surprised. Rubio, Macklin, just guys that they weren't looking at what you would call world beaters like Charlo is looking right now. Charlo looks like to beat him, you're going to have to, come correct and stuff like that. He looks like he's in the height or prime of his career. He's a 2-division champion. Canelo didn't want smoke. Triple G didn't want smoke, etc. And with Golovkin opening up, they're suggesting that he's going to fight him. And he's a 25-1 underdog. Those are horrible. So, I mean, if somehow Szremeta beats Golovkin, then you'll make some good money if you bet on him. But I don't know how many people would even remotely pick this. Now, he is from Poland, and there's a good Polish community in Chicago. So I wouldn't be surprised if Eddie Hearn tries, just to milk that demographic, put this fight in Chicago to try to maximize the dollar. Okay, there's a Polish community. Let's put in that new stadium in Chicago. And hopefully people from Poland come out, because they're going to have to get creative to try to put this at a venue to get ticket sales, because I just don't feel it's a big fight. It's a unheralded, unknown guy in America. If you look at his resume again, Oscar Cortez was his last fight. And that was a guy 27-4, not familiar with him. None of the names ring a bell except for Kasim Uma, who Golovkin also fought and beat. And Patrick Mee, like, who is that? Patrick Mee? You know, it's not a good look. He's boxed 144 rounds versus Golovkin, who has probably almost double the fights. Yep. Golovkin has 42 fights and he's boxed 212 rounds. And this is as a knockout artist, you know, so he's probably knocked, especially early in his career, he probably knocked out guys early, and he still boxed way more rounds than him. So Golovkin has experience. He has the reach and height. He has, you know, just a big event, big fight experience. He's a silver medalist. Unlike, I just don't see it being a big fight or a sellable fight. And it's a shame that Golovkin is running from this guy who really beat him. In his record is sad what they do to boxers. His record is going to show 2 losses, 1 to Jacobs, 1 to Triple G. And he did very well in both of those fights, you know. They both knocked him down once. Jacobs and Triple G both had 1 knockdowns over him. Derevyanchenko, I can't wait for his next fight. I'll definitely support. But it's gotten real quiet for Golovkin. Old media, they tend to do this. When a fighter doesn't necessarily look the same, all the stuff that they built those fighters up to be, they just disappear. And then they coattail the next fighter who's doing well. Because, like I said, it's been quiet for Golovkin. What happened to Mexican style? What happened to Mexicans for Golovkin t-shirts? What happened to, you know, Kazakhstan Thunder? What happened to, you know, all of these things that people said? You have to keep in mind, people had Golovkin as the #1 pound for pound person, they were trying to say. ESPN said it. This was recently. They said he was the #1 pound for pound. I'm like, how? Who's he beat? You know, and they said he was the #1 pound for pound guy, and he's a silver medalist. We just expected more. And for Eddie Hearn and Dazn, if they go through and make this fight, it's going to be tough for Dazn, because at a $20 a pop price point, it becomes hard to sell fights like this. Who you're trying to break through in America, and you perpetually put out fights that have very little to no interest in America. Even the Derevyanchenko, I, as a true boxing fan, knew to watch out for the fight because I rate Derevyanchenko and Triple G's good. But a lot of people weren't really buying the hype until they actually heard about it after the fact or watched it. So Dazn is going to have to do a better. They're off to a very slow start. Their schedule: Jaime Munguia versus Gary Spike O'Sullivan. He's 1 fight removed from a David Lemieux first-round knockout. You know, and David Lemieux didn't even look good in his last fight. He got dropped like 2 times and, you know, barely won. Now, if Golovkin, this is just a stay safe fight, and for whatever reason, they're still trying to make Canelo Triple G 3. I literally, at this point, have very little interest in Canelo Triple G. I think right now, Triple G is for the taking. The Derevyanchenko fight showed it. The second Canelo fight showed it. Kell Brook fight showed it. Jacobs fight definitely showed it. And it's hard to rewind time, you know what I mean? And Triple G, I just feel like he's seen the best days that he has to offer. You know, he's already taken a loss. He looked complacent and out of sorts in his last fight with Derevyanchenko. That whole aura has been gone. It's kind of like Joshua versus Ruiz. You know, once your aura is gone, it's gone. It's hard to get it back. So what do you fall back on? Triple G, he has a good jab, but he's not the most athletic guy. He's not the guy who's, you know, it's going to be hard to make the transition. His defense isn't A1, you know. So as you start fighting rugged fights and tough fights, I just see Triple G not lasting. If he fights the competition as one of the top guys that he should fight, then I don't see him. Like, I can't picture him. He was very close to unifying the division and being undisputed. He only needed the Billy Joe Saunders belt. At this point, I don't see any way that would be a reality now, because you would have to beat Charlo and Andrade and Canelo. And those are 3 fights where he might lose all of them. You know what I mean? Or he might lose the first to the point where it doesn't even make sense to make the other 2 or fight the other 2. So that's the reality as I see it with Golovkin. And You know, it's just what it is. But 25-1 underdog, I feel DAZN is going to have a very difficult time trying to sell that. $20 a pop. Eddie Hearn talking about raising the price to $50. And the other thing, I mean, that's just ridiculous. When you got Disney Plus for $6.99, etc. But the other thing that's crazy is DAZN, on top of it being subscription based with matchups that are rumored like this, you got to look at it is like we just got Charlo Harrison 2, which was an excellent card on Fox free TV. Like, this was free. You could have a HD antenna, RCA HD antenna, and you would have been able to watch that particular fight. So to charge people for a fight like this, Triple G versus Szremeta, I mean, it's just no allure, because Derevyanchenko has some pop, and he's athletic, and he sparred with Jacobs, and he fought Jacobs as a pro, and he has a very good trainer in Andre Rozier, etc. Right? But Kamil Szremeta, there's no standout qualities. He don't have no standout qualities. He doesn't have, like, even, you know, a puncher's chance. Like, Canelo hit Triple G with some good shots, and Triple G didn't get knocked down or go anywhere. And Derevyanchenko hurt Triple G for sure, but he didn't get knocked down and didn't go anywhere. So what is Kamil Szremeta going to do? He's going to have to try to outbox at age 30 with being inexperienced. Horrible fight for the network of DAZN, and I just don't see it boding well with the fight fans. I think Triple G's at the point of his career is like, look at what Wilder's doing. Wilder's schedule has consisted of Luis Ortiz, Tyson Fury, ended in a draw, won an immediate rematch. Tyson Fury fled to ESPN. Then he fought the #1 ranked WBC mandatory. Dominic Breazeale knocked him out 1 round, came back, set the record straight that he was better than Luis Ortiz, knocked him out in a good firefight, you know, a tough fight for him. And now he's fighting Tyson Fury again. Meanwhile, and he's 30 something. Meanwhile, Golovkin's 37 and a silver medalist, and they're talking about him fighting Kamil Szremeta. And, you know, I don't know if they think that people are going to forget about the Derevyanchenko fight. It's not just about knockouts. It's about who are you knocking out. Knocking out Steve Rolls, we expect that. We expect you to knock out Kamil Szremeta because they don't have anything to keep you off. They don't have the experience. Steve Rolls had never fought in a 12-rounder before, or he fought in one 12-rounder and like one 10-rounder or no 12-rounder, something to this effect. So Golovkin being a silver medalist, I expect so much more. And just to put it in comparison, Amir Khan's a silver medalist. People say he has a shaky chin, but if you look at his last couple of fights, who is he fighting? He fought, you know, Billy Dibb. He wasn't supposed to fight him, so I'm not really including that. But he fought Terrence Crawford. I'm not talking about outcomes. I'm just talking about a guy with a perceived glass chin fought recently in the last, you know, space of 8 years or whatever. He fought who? Marco Antonio Barrera, Marcos Maidana, Devin Alexander, was chasing and trying to get a Floyd Pacquiao fight, but still fought names like Canelo at his weight, Terrence Crawford, right? So despite everything, anything else, Amir Khan will get in there with you as a silver medalist. He might get knocked out, Danny Garcia, but, you know, he's willing to try. Triple G actually has a good chin, and we can't seem to see fights that don't have ridiculous odds like 60-1, 25-1. I mean, look at this. Look at this man. Like, this is, it's just embarrassing. And what's embarrassing for DAZN is he's rumored to be on his fight contract getting $100 million just dispersed into his individual fights. So DAZN's giving him equity in the company, and they're giving him so much money to produce what for the fans, to produce what for the platform. Like, is the platform growing exponentially off of fights like this? You know, if he fights Kamil Szremeta, even if you do good attendance in Chicago or wherever they put the fight, I'm assuming they're going to try to milk the public and go somewhere where there's a Polish fight fan base. Like, I would guess Chicago or New York, because Adam Kalnacki, he fights in New York, and he has a good following. So I can picture if Golovkin fights are going to be in one of those two areas, right? But even if you do good attendance, what does that really mean? What does a win over Szremeta really mean? And it's so convenient that all Eddie Hearn fighters, when there's so many greater challenges and unifications, because Triple G's a champion too, you know, even though I don't think he should be, because Derevyanchenko really beat him, but the judges seen it his way, so therefore he has the belt. So he's a champion, and this is the caliber of guys he's fighting. I don't know how guys get ranked. You know, that's not really my job or my place, but it's convenient and mighty coincidental that Eddie Hearn fighters, rematch room fighters, they all seem to get tied up with mandatories at the worst possible times. You know, Wilder said he'll come to UK for shit money and fight AJ. Conveniently, the WBA stipulates that AJ got to fight his mandatory Povetkin. Now the world wants Wilder Fury 2 winner to fight Joshua. Joshua has to fight one of two mandatories in Usyk, or he has to fight Kubrat Pulev. Both fights that are lesser than Wilder Fury winner. You know, same thing with Triple G. Instead of fighting a Derevyanchenko rematch, Charlo, Andrade, something like that, they're talking about he got to fight his mandatory, and they're trying to pass it. So I'm off that. I'm good off the whole mandatory, because it's becoming a walking and an ongoing excuse for fighters to fight fights we don't want. That's just what it is. And the other thing is Abel Sanchez is no longer in the corner of Triple G. And that's a personal decision. I don't really mind who's training a fighter, you know. Jonathan Banks is a good trainer. However, the only thing I'll say about it is Jonathan Banks is a lot more mild and chill and quiet than Abel Sanchez. So Abel Sanchez, good or bad, gave Triple G a lot of publicity, you know, and kept people talking to some degree. But with this new pairing, Jonathan Banks is a good trainer, but he's not the same animated type as Abel Sanchez. So it's like Triple G's star power has dimmed immensely based on his performance with Derevyanchenko, and then also not keeping him in the news. He's like, you know, he just looks like he's enjoying life, enjoying the DAZN money he's gotten so far, and just chilling, you know. So he doesn't even really look like, to me, a super hungry fighter that you can imagine. And DAZN signed him to a multi-fight deal for several fights. Just really weird behavior, which goes to show me that DAZN doesn't know shit about boxing. Like the people up top, you know, I really believe this. I feel like the people in charge aren't familiar with enough of boxing. They're a sports company, and they're kind of being led by the people they entrust, like Eddie Hearn and Golden Boy or whoever else, and they're just kind of going with the program. But I don't know why they thought Triple G and Canelo, they were desperate, so they threw them $500 million between the two fighters, and now this is you got the most money tied up in these two out of all your network. And Triple G really lost his last fight, you know, to the public eye, to a trained keen eye. So his stock's going down. You know, Canelo, his weigh-ins have been smaller with no signs of recovery. There's no real signs of recovery for it, because who's Canelo going to fight? Probably someone that the masses don't want him to fight. So it's going to be interesting. 2020 is going to be very interesting to see what DAZN can come up with. Eddie Hearn bragged about having a bottomless pit of money. So we're going to see, because they've been out long enough to put on good fights and, you know, make it work. And they got 500 million tied up in this man and Canelo. And you can't have your stars like that not fighting other stars or other people, expecting to grow subscribers long term, and you got this much money tied in them and they're not pulling their weight. I mean, it's embarrassing, to be honest. It's really embarrassing. Like, all I know, let's say I was in charge of the Los Angeles Lakers, and we gave LeBron James $365 million, you know, then he's going to have to ball out. He's going to have to come to practice, show up at games. You know, what are you getting paid for? You know, let's say you have a house cleaning business and you're paying someone great, you know, triple minimum wage, whatever minimum wage is in your state, triple it. And you're paying them great money. Then they're going to have to show up. You have to be punctual. You have to come to work on time. You have to actually clean and vacuum, empty out the vacuum, you know, and perform your job duties. So as a boxer, what is their job duty? To why would you pay someone a lot of money? Because of their popularity. Okay, I get that. But that means you got to pull your weight. Triple G hasn't had a massive fight on DAZN since he signed. So as far as I'm concerned, he's not really even pulling his weight. The Deryevchenko was an accidental good fight. People weren't really checking for it. And then it happened to be a good fight because Deryevchenko is tough and he pushed the envelope. So, if this was my investment and I was an investor in DAZN, I'd be worried right about now. Like I said, you got two fighters. Canelo didn't want to fight Triple G. No one seems to be able to convince him to fight Triple G, or at least last year they couldn't. And the ship is sinking, and the bottomless pit of money is starting to run thin, and the fans are demanding more, and you can't get fans in the US that are willing to stay long term. It's because of matches like this. Everybody that's getting bread with DAZN should have to pull their own weight. Like Danny Jacobs, he did everything he can do. He moved up in weight. He fought the bigger man. When the bigger man came in 5 pounds heavy, he didn't complain, and he's willing to scrap. He didn't quit. So Jacobs is pulling his weight. Whatever he earned it. He trained for it. He made weight. He was willing to move up, and he was willing to fight a big man when the big man wasn't professional. But part of Triple G as a superstar that they build him as, part of why he's getting 100 million is to fight big fights and attract people to the app. And I don't think he's done that. I don't think he's done that, especially with fights like Steve Rolls and Kamil Szremeta. So good luck with that. And it's incredible how I in new media bring these things up, but old media doesn't say a peep about stuff like this. But then when Tank Davis sells out Atlanta, the Atlanta Hawks facility, State Farm Arena, fighting a former gold medalist, people say, oh, he's out of prime, and have all these excuses of why it's a bad fight. You can't tell me that Gamboa is less accomplished or less skilled or less of a threat to Tank moving up than Golovkin staying at his weight division, being the taller fighter, longer reach, more experience, more fights, more rounds fought better names, fought bigger names, fought in big events, getting paid, has the power advantage, has the height advantage, he has all the advantages. So good luck with Eddie Hearn and Rematch Room constantly coming up with mandatories that nobody wants to see. I hope this is an early April Fool's joke and Triple G actually fights somebody better. And the other thing that hurts DAZN is their undercards have been very lackluster. And like Triple G, Deryevchenko, that was the best fight on the card. The undercard was pretty abysmal. So between those two, and they're airing the undercard on YouTube and stuff for free. So it's like DAZN's making it hard to attract US subscribers long term. You're giving away your exclusive content and undercards for free, trying to attract people, so they're stuck with the main event. So imagine a main event that people don't even want to see, like Triple G, Kamil Szremeta. We'll see if it's announced. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. We unpack, coming to you live. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.